The nervous system. Here are the objectives. Function of the nervous system. The brain is the control center for all bodily functions. When it stops, we stop. What is not the main function? Helps us breathe. There are several divisions of the nervous system. The central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord. It is the control center. The peripheral nervous system is made up of the 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of peripheral spinal nerves arising from the spinal cord that transmits signals from the central nervous system to the body. The nerves are bundles of neurons that connect the central nervous system to the rest of the body. Tract is a bundle of nerves in the central nervous system. Ascending tracts carry impulses towards the brain. Think the brain is on the top, so the signals have to go up to the brain. And descending is the opposite. They carry nerves away from the brain, down to the rest of the body. A ganglion is a nerve center outside of the central nervous system. Innervation is the supply of nerves to a specific location. Plexus is a network of intersecting spinal nerves. Receptors are sites within organs that receive stimulation, and stimulus is anything that activated a nerve. The reflexes are involuntary responses to change. Neurons are the basic cells of the nervous system and lets the body parts talk to each other. There are billions of them. The three types of neurons are afferent, connecting, and efferent. The parts of the neuron are the dendrite that receive the impulses and send them to the cell body. The axons conduct the impulses away from the cell. Terminal end fibers lead impulses from the axon to the synapse, and synapses are the spaces between the neurons. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that are responsible for the impulses to be transmitted across the nerves, such as acetylcholine, dopamine, and norepinephrine. Glial cells surround the neurons and hold them in place, supply nutrients and oxygen, insulate and remove neurons. Myelin sheath is the protective covering of the nerves and is made up of glial cells. White matter of the brain is myelinated fibers, and gray matter is unmyelinated cells. The CNS, which is the brain and spinal cord, also contains the meninges. These are the layers that surround the brain and spinal cord to protect them. The dura mater is the tough outside covering. The arachnoid is the second layer, and the pia mater is the innermost layer next to the brain and spinal cord. The cerebrospinal fluid provides temperature control, nutrients, and cushions the central nervous system. The brain is made up of several parts, as you can see here. The largest part of the brain is the cerebrum. There is a right and left hemisphere and 4 lobes: the frontal, the parietal, the occipital, and the temporal. The thalamus is under the cerebrum. The hypothalamus is hypo, below the thalamus. The cerebellum is at the back of the head, under the cerebrum and the brainstem, which is under all of the other structures and connects the brain to the spinal cord. There are 3 parts of the brainstem: the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. The spinal cord is a long tube that is the pathway from the brain to the rest of the body. Here's a view of all the structure locations. What's the central nervous system? the brain, and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system are specialized and made up of autonomic, sensory, and somatic motor nerves. There are 12 cranial nerves, and they are named for the location or the function that they have. There are 31 pairs of spinal nerves: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral. The autonomic nervous system is divided into the sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. The sympathetic nerves are responsible for the flight or fight response, and the parasympathetic nerves are responsible for maintaining normal body functions. Which is not a part of the peripheral nerves? Central, because they're part of the central nervous system. Here are some specialists that focus on the nervous and mental health systems. Which one specializes in surgery? The surgeon. Disorders of the head and meninges are headache or cephalgia. Migraine or cluster headaches are different types of headaches. Encephalocele is a herniation or outpouch of the brain tissue through the skull. Meningocele is a herniation of the meninges through the skull or the vertebrae. Hydrocephalus is excessive fluid collection in the ventricles of the brain. A meningioma is a benign tumor of the meninges. And meningitis is what? Inflammation of the meninges, usually due to infection. Here are disorders of the brain. Encephalitis is, say it with me, inflammation of the brain. Dementia and Alzheimer's both decline in mental and physical abilities. Tetanus and Reye syndrome are both due to infection, and Tourette's syndrome results in involuntary tics or behaviors. Degenerative diseases are Alzheimer's, Huntington's, and Parkinson's diseases. Lewy body dementia is what Robin Williams had, an ALS that attacks all nerve cells that control voluntary muscle movement. Brain injuries include amnesia, a concussion, which can cause a contusion, or a hematoma if traumatic enough. Traumatic brain injury is a traumatic injury that damages the brain. It can be mild or severe. Results can be brief or lifelong. Coup is an injury occurring on the side of the injury. Contra coup is an injury occurring on the opposite side of the injury. Level of consciousness is a description used to describe a patient's mental state, conscious or unconscious. Other descriptors are lethargic, stuporous, delirious, syncopal, or in a coma. Brain tumor is another disorder of the nervous system. There are several types. Glioblastoma is an example of a fast-growing cancer of the brain. Increased intracranial pressure is increased pressure inside the skull. Strokes can be from disrupted blood flow to the brain, either from a blockage or a ruptured blood vessel causing a bleed. When the blood flow disruption is temporary, it can be identified as a transient ischemic attack or mini-stroke. FAST is the acronym used to determine if someone is having a stroke. The effect of the stroke depends on where the damage occurs. The other type of stroke, where circulatory disruption is due to rupture of a vessel, is hemorrhagic. Other problems with nervous systems are sleep disorders, either too much or not enough. The spinal cord issues include mostly problems with infection, tumors, or inflammation. Nerve pathology is also mainly associated with inflammation or infection. Cerebral palsy is a group of disorders caused by brain damage. This brain damage or injury can result in motor and speech defects and is associated with birth trauma. Epilepsy is a seizure disorder where there is a sudden surge of electrical activity in the brain. There are several types of seizures. Febrile is due to a high fever, usually in young children. Tonic-clonic involves the whole body. Absence is a short disturbance, usually seen as a loss of awareness. Disorders of the nervous system can result in abnormal sensations. Causalgia is a burning feeling. Hyperesthesia is hypersensitivity to any sensation. Paresthesia is burning or prickling sensation. Neuropathy is damage to a nerve. Mononeuropathy is damage to one peripheral nerve versus polyneuropathy, which is damage to multiple nerves. Restless leg syndrome is an uncomfortable feeling in the legs that causes a strong urge to move them to stay comfortable. What does myelitis mean? Well, myel means spinal cord, and you better know what itis means by now. Inflammation of the spinal cord. How do we diagnose? We use x-rays in some form like CT, MRI, and MRA. We can use ultrasound and electrical activity through electroencephalography recorders. We can also take fluid directly from the central nervous system by a lumbar puncture or spinal tap. Medications used to treat neurologic disorders are hypnotic, that suppresses the central nervous system. Anticonvulsants are used to treat epilepsy. Barbiturates are also depress the central nervous system. Sedatives also produces a calming effect without sleepiness. Anesthesia is used to sedate or suppress. Types are epidural, administered through the lumbar space. General is a complete loss of consciousness. A local is a loss of sensation in a specific area, whereas regional is loss of sensation to a larger area. Topical only numbs the surface. Here are some other treatments for brain and nerve disorders. What is common for neuroimaging? An MRI. Common abbreviations also listed in Table 11.4 in your text. What is EEG? Electroencephalography. What means inflammation of the membranes? Obviously, anything that doesn't end in itis is out, right? Meningitis.